Happy Tuesday, October 28th, here from headquarters here, St. Petersburg, Florida. Back with another great podcast episode, running back-to-back on the schedule, like I said yesterday. Yesterday we talked about college football. Obviously the coaching carousel was a main highlight of focus here. But now we're getting into the more professional stuff. Wow, last night. Let's talk about last night, Monday Night Football and World Series Game 3. I believe it was Game 3 if I'm not mistaken. Somebody correct me on that. Holy moly. I was up at 1:30, game was still going on. And honestly, I'm super surprised. I haven't really been in touch much with baseball this past year, obviously due to the fact that the Braves have been a walking dumpster fire of a ball club. Obviously, Brian Snitker's out there, no longer coaching or no longer managing the club there in Atlanta. Great guy, Ross World Series. But Shohei Ohtani and the guys, really being stuck out there. I think it finally ended after 18 innings. Last night, it was a complete bash. Just straight. I believe they were tied 5 for 5. Going into the extra innings, but no, it went pretty late last night. Let me pull this up real quick. Let me see. They lost last night. Ended up losing 6-5 to the Dodgers. In 18 innings. Holy moly, what a performance by both teams! Just a straight clash. It lasted literally the entire night. So anyone that was hoping to get some sleep last night after a hopefully quick World Series win, unfortunately their needs were not met. But despite that, we got lots of great football going on, lots of great NFL. Week number 9, I believe it was. Week 8 wrapped up last night with the Commanders and the Chiefs. Straight blowout, 28-7. As you may know, Marcus Mariota starting for the Commanders in place of Jaden Daniels. And that's really unfortunate because, Jaden Daniels, I know damn well he was really excited to get his guys back in Deebo Samuel and Terry McLaurin. Wasn't able to play that game, but he should be back next week. But to start off the week, we had the Vikings and the Chargers, complete dominant performance by Justin Herbert and the guys through 18-25. His completion percentage, he threw 227 yards for 3 touchdowns. Vidal, the running back, he had 23 carries, 117 yards, and a touchdown. Very unfortunate. I could have used him on my fantasy squad this week. James Cook. Let's talk about James Cook. He's one of my other fantasy running backs. I don't want to talk too much about my fantasy team in general, but due to the fact Caden Vidal, not Caden Vidal. What's his name? Vidal, Kamani Vidal. So I picked him up on waivers a couple weeks ago, and dude put up about 20 points. Bijan I had with James Cook in the rotation. It's kind of just like my basic starting squad. It's going to be probably the starting squad going forward. Just, Bijan didn't obviously have a good week. The whole team, Atlanta Falcons, didn't have a good week, and we're going to start off with that after we talk about this game in Los Angeles Thursday night, premiering the classical throwback uniforms, the Navy. Don't believe that's what they call them, but they were the old Navy uniforms. The classical looks that we think of LaDainian Tomlinson when we see those. He was an iconic player in those jerseys and those uniforms. On Justin Herbert, or not Justin Herbert, Phillip Rivers too. Obviously, one of probably the greatest quarterback in Chargers history. Justin Herbert's definitely climbing up there. I'd say he'll be past that or at that mark by the end of his career. Chargers extend their game or their record to 5-3, still pushing to the top of the AFC East or the AFC West. Sorry, I'm all out of sorts today. And then we go into the Sunday games and the early games. A common theme that I saw was a lot of the wins from the little guys this week. We had the Jets beat the Bengals. Jets being 0-7. The Ravens beat the Bears despite not having Lamar Jackson, and he should be in tomorrow night, or not tomorrow night, on Thursday night against the Dolphins. Texans, they overcome the 49ers that are 5-3 despite, being out their entire roster. Obviously they lost Fred Warner, and they lost some more dudes last week in the Atlanta game. Other than that, there wasn't really much upsets going on, but obviously huge point for the Jets. Aaron Glenn finally gets his first dub with the New York men there against the Bengals. The Bengals are still putting up a pretty good fight. It's just it comes down to their defense, really. And I say that even with Joe Burrow in, I don't know how different it would be. Joe Flacco's playing pretty damn good right now. He's playing some pretty damn good ball. We saw that against Aaron Rodgers Thursday night last week. But Joe Flacco, he's feeling great. If he can keep the team kind of somewhat afloat, by the time Joe Burrow gets back, the season will kind of already be over. So Joe Flacco's going to need to play some pretty damn good ball to get this offense, past all the defensive struggles, with Zach Taylor and the guys there in Cincinnati. But let's talk about Atlanta and Miami. Being an Atlanta Falcons fan, obviously I've had my fair share of ups and downs, but this probably might be the most embarrassing loss in Raheem Morris's entire coaching career to date. If there is another, please bring it to my attention somewhere. Send me a DM, comment somewhere, let me know. But this was an absolute shit show, to say the least. There's no sugarcoating it. Tua Tagovailoa had a swollen eye and somehow managed to play better than he's ever played, throwing 20 for 26, 205 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Obviously, Devon Achane running all over us. 65 plus isn't really that much. Compared to what Bijan Robinson did, it's a lot. But, when it comes down to the Atlanta Falcons, we're kind of a lot of people are pointing fingers at, obviously, Zach Robinson, the offensive coordinator, and you've seen over the past couple of weeks how consistent this offensive play calling has gotten, and how predictable it is. And that's a part of the reason why Bijan was not able to kind of get the production that a lot of people were expecting out of him, despite being on a lackluster offense. Bijan's always a bright spot, being that dual threat running back that is reliable in, basically every context. If someone like Penix, he's searching for his progressions, there's nothing there. He always has Bijan in kind of like the swing route in the backfield to kind of, bail him out. For Kirk Cousins, though, I kind of feel bad for the guy. I know that a lot of teams were pushing to kind of get the Falcons to blow past, what they thought about him in the past in that trade situation. But I can tell probably from an outside standpoint that a lot of teams are probably going to stop pursuing Kirk Cousins after this one. But, realistically, really glad to see the guy get back on the field. As much as I hated the situation that happened last year and how much he hid kind of from the team, it was also there was also some stuff that Raheem Morris could have improved on. But at the end of the day, Raheem Morris is kind of the guy to blame here, unfortunately. But I'd say in this scenario more directly, it's Zach Robinson. And Zach Robinson's offense and his scheme, it's just not working out. Especially with Penix, a guy that's so good. He's just been looking like, we're just not using our weapons to the best of our abilities, and it's showing here, especially against the Dolphins. Don't get me wrong, Drake London being out, our wide receiver course banged up, offensive line is banged up, our offensive line depth is clearly showing an issue. Kirk Cousins getting thrashed. It's just unfortunate for the team. And going into next week, who do we have next week? We have the Patriots, I believe, next week. And all I'm going to say is God help us, please. We are fried. Drake May is going to torch us. And honestly, defensively, that's frustrating. That's frustrating defensively. The Atlanta Falcons known for probably one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the league, especially over the past few weeks, especially how we played against, the Buffalo Bills and how we played against the 49ers and how we played against all these other teams. And really the Carolina Panthers game that we got blown out in really was not a defensive struggle, or I wouldn't say defensively, but It was more just kind of turning the ball over and kind of putting our defense in bad positions. And it was honestly the same thing here. We had, a Bijan fumble. Unfortunate game plan. I'd say that a defense can really only do so much in a circumstance like this when your team and their offense is playing like literal shit. And that's what kind of happened here. So, unfortunately, it's been today's Tuesday, so the game happened Sunday. It's been a couple of days, and there has not been an ESPN notification notifying this abysmal fan base that Zach Robinson has been dismissed from his duties in Atlanta. So we're probably going to have to sit through another week of god-awful play calling and just straight torment as we go into, I believe we go to Foxborough to play the Patriots and Drake May that are looking just completely unstoppable. 6-2. Just completely thrashed the Browns. Not that the Browns are much of a competitive team, obviously being 2-6, but let's talk about the Browns and the Patriots. Drake May, I should have kept him on my team. Should have kept him on my fantasy team. I need to stop talking about my fantasy team because realistically nobody cares. But I drafted him late, and I saw a lot of stuff in Drake May. I was kind of believing in the propaganda, and it was a trend that I was kind of riding going into the season, and it's paid off well. Leading his team to 6-2. A lot of people are getting this Tom Brady comparison literally only due to the fact that he is a Patriot. But he's looking damn good right now, and the rush game, receiving game, all that stuff, they're looking great. If only he could throw the ball to Stephon Diggs more, that would be delightful, please. And then, so Patriots, they are on a hot streak. They're staying home next week, I believe, against the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, we all know how that's going to go. Expect the Patriots to increase to 7-2. With no change in the Atlanta, coaching staff, with any offensive schematic changes. Penix will be back. London will more than likely be back, so could make it an interesting game. But I'd say if nothing changes with Zach Robinson, we're just going to get the same narrative there in Foxborough, in Boston. Let's talk about the heartbreak of the week. We got a lot of heartbreaking injuries. Last week who was last week? I don't think we had any crazy injuries last week. If I'm lacking ball knowledge here, then please call me out. But obviously this one sent shockwaves throughout the entire football world. Everyone has made a public loving, and a straight. The entire country loves him. Cam Skattebo obviously went down. Gruesome injury. First off, let's start off with that. Obviously, I've probably seen worse, but that is, his ankle was literally popped. I don't even want to talk about it on here. That's disturbing. But obviously, he's going to be out for significant time. The whole football world is going to miss him. Obviously, one of the really sad things that I saw was when he was being carted off. A lot of people are probably seeing this clip all over TikTok and Instagram and whatnot of Jackson Dart, headbutting him as he's getting carted off the field. And then obviously, what he was saying after Skattebo was carted off the field. And that really just shows you how dynamic those two are, and to have that dynamic duo, especially when you can have Skattebo in the backfield as a receiving and rushing back. It just shows you what the Bulls building there, and it just shows you how powerful those two guys are as a combined duo for the New York football team Giants. But yeah, no, that's going to be felt. It's going to be, I wouldn't say difficult to keep Jackson Dart, as a singular force to kind of keep that locker room together. But I think that Cam Skattebo, that's very unfortunate for the team, and especially how they've been doing. Obviously, the past couple of weeks have been a little rough for the guys, especially after that Eagles win. They lose to the Eagles 38-20 here. Jackson Dart, despite that, playing pretty, all right ball, mid ball. He only threw 14-24, 193 yards with a touchdown. I believe he had an interception too, if I'm not mistaken. No, he did not have an interception. But due to that fact, Saquon Barkley, he's back. Obviously, he's been shown that he's a little dormant these past couple weeks. Rushes for 150 yards with a touchdown on 14 carries. 14 carries. But yeah, despite that, the main narrative out of Philadelphia in that game is Giants just took a huge blow again, especially after last week, dude. If they would have came away with the win last week in Mile High, that would have been huge for the guys. Obviously, they're kind of getting banged that they're getting bashed while they're down. But despite that, they fall to 2-6. But obviously, without Cam Skattebo, it's going to be difficult. And how about those Bills, man? How about the Buffalo Bills? They come back off 2 straight losses. They have a bye week to kind of recuperate, get all the guys back together, get Dalton Kincaid back to full strength. National Tight End Day actually was Sunday. Dalton Kincaid did not play well. Go figure. Could have done better, but we're not going to criticize him. Obviously, he's been kind of battling some stuff. But Bills come away with a huge blowout win in Charlotte there against the Panthers. Andy Dalton was actually starting for the Panthers there. Bryce Young's out. But Andy Dalton, despite that, playing a better game than Josh Allen, I'd say it really comes down to James Cook and his performance. Thank God I had him starting on my fantasy team. You're going to hear me mention my fantasy team 400 times throughout this, and I'm very, very sorry. But James Cook, 19 carries, 216 yards. I believe those are all-purpose yards, so he might have had some receptions in there too. 2 touchdowns. But yeah, he had what a day for James Cook. Very needed after a couple of these past weeks were a little abysmal for the running back out of Buffalo. Bears Ravens. We talk about Ben Johnson, we talk about Caleb Williams, and really how they've been showing a lot of great stuff this year, leading themselves or going to a 4-3 record. Caleb Williams, he had a day. I mean, quite a day. Obviously, no passing touchdowns, but he did throw 25 for 38, 285 yards with 1 interception. Derrick Henry played an all right game, but obviously not enough to get out to win there in Baltimore, 30-16. And I mean, wow, how about those Ravens, man? They get, like I said, they travel to Miami, I believe, this weekend or this Thursday night to play the Dolphins on 2 that are coming off a hot win in Atlanta. And Lamar Jackson will be back. So that's going to be really exciting. I've said, I've talked to many people, and I've said I think that the NFL is a completely different league without Lamar Jackson, with how electric he is. And he's such an iconic player, especially such a revolutionary player for the running quarterback, the dual threat quarterback in today's league. 49ers, Texans, not many headlines out of there except for C.J. Stroud played some damn good ball. And really, I've always been a C.J. Stroud guy, especially since, what he's done at Ohio State. Especially, I think I kind of really hopped on his train ever since that Peach Bowl game in Atlanta 2023 when he torched Georgia, torched that defense, that iconic defense. But, a man of God, as a fellow man of God, I love C.J. Stroud. Glad to see that he's kind of back and doing it. They beat the 49ers 26-15. The 49ers are a damn good team. Don't get it twisted. Despite being, they're a hard fighting team. Mac Jones, their starting quarterback. He's playing some pretty damn solid ball. Honestly, I'd say better this year than Brock Purdy has been. Call me out if I'm wrong, but I'd say he's been playing some pretty damn good ball, leading the 49ers to a 5-3 record. Texans, they were a 3-3 team going into this, or they were a 2-4 team going into this. Sorry, but don't count the Texans out. I really hope to see some late season pushes, some mid season pushes from the Texans there. Buccaneers have a little bit of a struggle in New Orleans, but end up kind of stretching away towards the end of the game, 23-3 there. Buccaneers are kind of in I wouldn't say a rough patch right now, but they're kind of they're just kind of sorting out the ups and downs. Obviously, Chris Godwin got back in, I believe, last week or the week before that, last week, I want to say, and then right back to being injured. Mike Evans out for significant time, probably out for the rest of the season. Not gonna his streak of 1,000-yard receiving seasons is gonna come to an end, unfortunately. One of the longest streaks in the entire NFL, if it isn't the longest. It's unfortunate for him. One of the all-time, greats in kind of like the NFC South division. A lot of people are going to say, some people say that he's better than Julio, but, ain't no damn way. But yeah, Buccaneers, they come out with a dub there. It improved to 6-2. Obviously, they have the NFC South, and I'd say almost a chokehold. Panthers are low-key kind of making a surge. Falcons are on the decline. And the Falcons are going to keep going down. I'd say this next stretch, we play like the Rams. I think we play the Bucs again in this like 6-game stretch. But I don't see the Falcons winning more than 2 in what we got coming up next. Colts, Titans. Obviously, the narrative here, Daniel Jones has another stellar game against, a mediocre foe. Jonathan Taylor has a damn good day too. Michael Pittman, it's like a triad. I'm seeing a lot of flashes of the it kind of reminds me of the Atlanta trio back in 2017, 2016. I'm going to mention the Falcons here because this is really the only duo that I can kind of see. You got an explosive receiver in Michael Pittman. Jonathan Taylor reminded me of, that Devontae Freeman. And then obviously you got Daniel Jones, Vanilla Vic, Matt Ryan, But when you talk about, this trio is looking insane. They're looking crazy, obviously, even though it's a Titans team. But they play the Steelers next week. So that'll be interesting for the Colts. Personally, they're playing good football, but, when it comes to the Colts, man, I'm excited to see them play more, competent teams. They play in one of the worst divisions in football right now, the AFC South. Obviously, below them is probably the NFC South, or probably above them. I don't know. You're playing a conference with the Titans. I'd say they're pretty much equal. The South has just always been pretty bad over these past few years. Hasn't really been a staple team for these guys. Obviously, the Bucs have kind of been, the reigning supreme in the NFC South, and the Texans and the Jaguars have kind of been bouncing it back these past few years. But yeah, obviously the Colts taking this league by storm. They're performing the way they need to, but hopefully a great team like the Steelers won't be like a brick wall for them. I see a lot of people comparing them to the 2021, I think it was, the Pittsburgh Steelers, how the Pittsburgh Steelers played relatively nobody in the league. And then when they finally played a somewhat competent team, which really wasn't that competent or good at the time, the Commanders, or at the time they were called the Washington Football Team, just got completely shut out. And then would go on to go on a losing streak. The rest of the story. Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster, Ben Roethlisberger, that whole team. And we're transitioning into the Steelers. This is a great transitional talk. Obviously, we can talk about the Cowboys and Broncos. Really, what it came down to was the Broncos showing that they're still a dominant team, and they're still a team to be feared. I believe they actually take control of the AFC South, or the AFC West. They're 6-2. Behind them is the 5-3 Chiefs and the 5-3 Chargers. And then we're not even going to talk about the Raiders. They were on bye week this week with a bunch of other teams. The Lions, Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, Jags. So if you're a fan of those teams, you are spared of hopefully. If you're a Raiders fan, it was a damn good week for you. I know Raiders fans, they typically love the bye week since, it's the only week throughout the year that they don't really lose, and they don't really feel any pain. I can agree fully as an Atlanta Falcons fan. We probably are the worst team in the league right now. I could be overreacting, but we'll talk about that, in another time when the Falcons are at the end of the season and they're 3-14, lost out the rest of the year. But we're going to transition Packers Steelers. How about Aaron Rodgers getting completely decked by Jordan Love and Tucker Kraft? Just complete. It was 35-25, only a 10-point game, but I'd say the score kind of underscored how the game truly went. Aaron Rodgers just getting completely belted by his old team. And then we're going to kind of close it out. Commanders Chiefs ended last night. Obviously, the highlight of last night was the World Series going to literally the butt crack of dawn. But Chiefs, they're back on the rise again. Isaiah Pacheco, He does enough to kind of keep the rushing game intact. I know that was a highlight point for the Chiefs that they needed. Travis Kelce, he plays a damn good game too. 6 receptions, 99 yards with a touchdown. Beautiful. Have him on my fantasy as well. Patrick Mahomes, 25, 34, 299 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Obviously, a lot of people are going to highlight him more for the MVP conversation as they have been already because they just cannot keep his dingling or his cock, some may say, out of their mouths. Sorry for the profanity. That was a very disturbing phrase that I just uttered. Let's just forget I said that. But let's look on to next week, week number 9. Let's give it a gander. Let's check out the squad. Obviously, like I said, starting off in Miami, Baltimore, Miami, coming off 2 impressive wins against 2 I wouldn't say pretty damn good teams. Atlanta's not a good team. That's happening in Hard Rock. Current spread is Baltimore by 7.5, and rightfully so. Lamar Jackson's coming back. Obviously, he's been out the whole year with a hamstring injury. Not the whole year, but most of the year. A lot of Ravens fans missing him. Got to get this done quickly, though. All right, Chicago, Cincinnati. Line is Chicago by 2.5. Obviously, people are expecting Caleb Williams to bounce back after the embarrassing loss in Baltimore. Minnesota, Detroit. I believe both these teams are coming off bye weeks. No. Detroit's coming off a bye week. Playing at home. They have the spread by 8.5 points. Detroit probably going to clear this spread. I think Carson Wentz is still starting for the Vikings. We might need to get more word on that. J.J. McCarthy could be back. I forgot how intensive his injury was. Carolina, Green Bay. Green Bay is favored by 12.5 points. And then personally in the NFL, that is a crazy thing. But yeah, honestly, I don't see Green Bay covering that spread though. I got Carolina against the spread there in Wisconsin. Los Angeles at Tennessee. Los Angeles is favored by 10.5. I see them covering that spread. Tennessee has just been getting bashed all year. Atlanta at New England. New England's favored by 5.5. I honestly see New England winning by more than that. I mean, I don't see Atlanta. I mean, we got guys coming off injury. I don't see much of a change unless Zach Robinson is fired from the team. I don't see that spread going down any further. I'd say New England covers that and more. San Francisco, New York, MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey. San Francisco currently has a 2.5 spread against the G-Men. And realistically, what is that spread? I say New York's a great team. They're a great ball team. But San Francisco, I mean, don't be surprised when San Francisco is still kind of kicking. Obviously, we got some defensive issues. A lot of injuries going on. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, all these guys. They're just kind of getting bashed right now. But I think that, the connections that Mac Jones is making with, Juwan Jennings and Kayshon Boutte, are they still on the team? The Kayshon Boutte might be a Patriots player. But I'd say that the 49ers, their offense is still playing with good charisma. New York, obviously losing Cam Skattebo. That's going to be huge for them. But I'd say, obviously, I got San Francisco. I'm going to keep the spread by a little over. I think it'll be like a three-point game. I think it'll be a one-score game there in New York. Indianapolis at Pittsburgh. Ooh, man, I'd say this is, other than the Kansas City-Buffalo game, this is kind of the highlight of the week. This is happening in Pittsburgh. Indianapolis is favored by 3.5. I see them covering that respectfully. Pittsburgh coming off a tough loss. But I think it'll be a great game. Lots of high scoring, I'd say, there in Pittsburgh. Denver at Houston. Houston's favored by 1.5, and I don't know how to feel about that one. I got Denver in that one, probably by a score or 2. I wouldn't say a score or 2. I'd say by a score. I'd say they're kind of kicking off their season now. They got a lot of life in their team, a pretty young team. Damn good defense. So, a 1.5 really kind of does make sense here. I don't see them letting Denver kind of get away with this game, but Denver, don't underscore them. They're 6-2, a great team. Don't let the record fool you either. They're a lot better than what they say they were. A lot of people are saying that they can easily be an undefeated team right now. You could say the same for a ton of other teams. You could say stuff like the Eagles are easily a few plays away from being not a good team right here. Kind of getting away with a lot of these interesting plays. All the Eagles fans can attack me all they want. I don't care. Jacksonville, Las Vegas. Jacksonville has a 3.5 point on the spread. I say Jacksonville. Honestly, I kind of expect Jacksonville to torch Las Vegas here. They've been kind of getting bashed these past couple of weeks. They're coming off a bye week. Cohen and the guys. I'd say he's got them correctly. I say he's got them right. Travis Hunter coming off a career performance against the Rams, despite getting blown out 35-7. I like Jacksonville big there in Las Vegas. Then we have New Orleans and Los Angeles. The Rams and the Saints. Obviously, the spread was it 13.5 points? Yep, I got that. They got spot on. Rams are gonna be up big there. Buffalo, Kansas City. That's gonna be a great game. Loving that. I'd say that I got the Bills. Kansas City's currently favored by 1.5. Obviously, it's going to probably be that close, but I got the Bills. I got the Bills winning that one. When they meet again in the playoffs, it might be a different story. Hopefully, it's a different story from how it usually is, because I would love to see the Bills in the Super Bowl. Love the Bills. Love Josh Allen, James Cook, those guys. Seattle, Washington. Seattle's favored by 3.5. I believe Jaden Daniels should be back, so I'm going to kind of take the Washington Commanders there. I believe, he's got his guys back. He's got Deebo Samuel. He's got Terry McLaurin. I don't think they got injured last night. I was not watching any of that game. I'm sorry. But, Jaden Daniels, if they can keep this offense healthy, I believe that they got that game in Seattle. They can kind of turn the tide this season. Arizona, Dallas, Monday Night Football, November 3rd. Dallas is favored by 2.5, and this is a horrible Monday Night Football game. Obviously, no question here. Dallas is going to win big, or they're going to win here. They are currently favored by 2.5 points, but Dallas is going to win here in Arlington. Cleveland, New York, Philadelphia. Cleveland Browns, the New York Jets, Philadelphia Eagles, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on bye. Wow, that extended a lot. But despite that, got some very exciting football this weekend. College football, NFL. We're starting off Thursday with the Dolphins and Ravens. I will definitely be watching that game. Lamar Jackson will be back in action. For the Ravens. But despite that, we're going to have a great college football week. I hope everyone had a great day yesterday. I hope everyone has a great day today and a great rest of their week. Chase your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you what to do, because they don't know you. They're not you. At the end of the day, it's only you that matters. But hope everyone has a great week. Like I said before, let's enjoy some sports. Let's enjoy some football. I believe Game 4 of the MLB World Series is tonight, so best believe we'll be watching that. Hopefully it doesn't go as long as last night was, but hope everyone has a tremendous rest of their week. It has been Michael Schneider with Mic'd Up. I'll catch y'all next Monday in the same spot. Goodbye, guys.